Hello, party persons, PokéPals. And you know what? If you're just driving on the road and this is the episode of Fine Time you're up to, I'm glad you listened to this. You had other choices, and you know what? Thanks. Thanks for that. I'm back here with Vin. He's a PokéPal. We've been here before. And we've got Ampy here too. What? That can't be right. We're just springing up a mousehold over here. What?
That is a poke pun, as it were.
I'll be nice, but what is an Ampy? Does Ampy even know what a Pokemon is?
Oh, you bet I know. Oh, I've got all the knowledge you could ask for. I've been there from the start, and I'm willing to give everything I got for our special little pod we've got together right here.
He didn't skip games like I did. He's a real PokéPal.
Hey! Pokemon's all about friendship and being a community. And I was a very surprised member of the community. Where about a month from now, where we all played Pokemon Arceus, and man, it's kind of weird that there's a whole other generation coming right after this, fairly ambitious attempt from Game Freak, huh?
Yeah, two games last year. That's really wild to think about. They weren't really doing the most. After that Sword and Shield DLC, then all of a sudden it's surprise suckers. You got content out the wazoo, right? And then it's still really weird.
Yeah, even factoring in a little bit of the delay that happened, it just felt really wow, we're already doing another one of these, huh? So seeing that reveal at the start of the year is just wow. We're getting right into this.
The normal cycle for these was right, but it still didn't feel quite there. If that makes any sense, Yeah, I figured we were in for at least another a big Arceus pack, but we didn't get that. We got that free upload and that free download. I mean, and it was good, but we'll get into all that later.
Yeah, it was weird, right? Because we were all expecting some Arceus DLC, then all of a sudden it's you get some new features. I think you get a new outbreak. It's okay, we're done here. And it's okay, I guess. But the beginning of 2022, we got that Pokemon Presents presentation, right? That's a tongue twister. And it listed through all the different mobile games, did a little bit of Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl shenanigans with some distributions and stuff.
Oh no, Arceus is getting hungry. He needs a cookie.
Yeah, right. But the end of this presentation had this really weird montage. It was live action.
Yeah, they were in an office, and I thought very much I couldn't be the only one thinking Detective Pikachu 2 or something related or a remake or something, but no, new game. Here's the starters.
Surprise!
Let's break Twitter for a minute.
Just go into that dark office and then, oh hey, these are new. We are going right into starters here. Oh boy,
we went right into starters last time too, but they left us hanging on those starters for a while.
This was just so bizarre to me because the dude had a flashlight as if you were discovering this abandoned office or whatever, and I'm not entirely sure how much it has to do with the game, but I mean it was cool, I guess.
Well, it's Game Freak during COVID. Oh come on, they got to be in here somewhere. We need them to crank out the new Pokemon
game.
Somewhere in the abandoned office, there's plans for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
We gotta dig deep, folks. We gotta find them out.
If we do this, if we don't get this out, we gotta crank out Tembo the Badass Elephant again, and no one wants that.
Enough of that drill dozer stuff. It's time for to be badass.
We've come a long way from Quinty, folks.
Oh, Quinty! I just played that the other week, but
the proto Pokemon sprite game.
Which was saucy on its own in certain respects, as saucy as an NES game could be.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that title screen art is wild. But there were a bunch of reveals. They showed a Lechonk and Smoliv.
I mean, poor Smoliv. He looks like he always needed some help. Someone help that poor Olive.
It's just having a real hard time there.
we got some version mascots, and then what happened afterwards were memes for days.
We had the dinosaur with wheels and the cyber dinosaur with wheels.
It's so weird.
And then everyone was talking about like, okay, well, why isn't the prehistoric dinosaur using its wheels? What is going on here? Why is it just running like that?
I saw enough Flintstones for me to not be entirely weirded out by that. I was fine with him like just running and climbing and crawling and whatever he was doing without actually using the wheels attached. It was fine.
We should probably lead this off also saying that, yeah, Ampy and I did go Violet, and Mr. Steve here did go Scarlet, so...
The wheels actually worked on your guy?
Yeah, they like the wheels on the Miraidon go round and round.
Okay. Well, this is going to be interesting.
All right.
What's your version difference? Wheels at work. Oh my god. But people went super hard. Sprigadito, Darling's grass cat had a facial pattern that resembled a certain plant, so people went really hard on drawing.
God, they were everywhere. Just, oh my god, this poor cat.
Even without the face, I think just having a grass-type cat Pokemon just has its own implications.
It really does, yeah.
It just got multiplied like tenfold by including that.
Yeah, it's catnip, right?
And I saw that, I'm like, well, Vin's got his starter. That's...
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Oh, tell me about it. Oh, my God.
It's a grass kitty. He's set.
I think on one of the main episodes, I think he said something, oh, Vin's going to draw this like a bunch of times or something like that. He's probably drawn like dozens already.
Yeah, he's the one guy that has like 20 of them like ready to go. Like, wow, I'm just inspired. I was just inspired to draw this, and they have like this lush rainforest with flowers.
Oh my god! Oh, that's dreamlike. Oh baby. Oh, I'm getting sucked in. I gotta pull myself out. But the biggest version difference was the professors when they showed those in the middle of the year. Oh my god.
Someone on the internet took to calling them Pokemon MILF version and Pokemon DILF version, and I'm gonna level with you kids. That's what solidified my pick, because I was looking at this future stuff. I'm like, yeah, maybe I want to go hang out in the future. I'm like, but I don't know. We got Step on Me Mommy for in Pokemon Scarlet, so maybe I'll go there.
That was your deciding factor.
I mean, fair to be clear, but yeah,
I'm not judging. Yeah, I just like that Violet, man. I want to be in the future. I remember one of the biggest things to me was that like I was like half awake. I like stayed up too late, so I like woke up in a haze, and I like looked at my phone and I saw Wiglet. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Well, it didn't help Wiglet's case at all that the first part of the reveal was a very blurry picture of Wiglet.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, guys, who said yes to this?
Yeah, I was just like staring. I'm like, yo, am I like in a haze? Like, what's going on, man?
You can't do that. Everyone.
It's got implications of its own. Yeah. Dot. We'll get more into some wacky Pokemon later on.
Oh, and they kept them coming too.
Something I did appreciate, though, they did have the you have it labeled the Ghost Doggo for great. I always mispronounce it. The Graveyard.
Graveyard. It's a pun.
They do a found footage type deal where some trainers like, I heard some spooky shit out here. Let's go find out what it is. Oh, it's just a dog. It's okay. Getting sleepy. It was dumb, but it was fine. I liked it. The ghost dog is my friend. Spoilers for later. All the dogs are my friends, but
it's a good design. The both evolutions are good, are nice, and but my favorite part about that trail is the implications that the narrator either passed out or I don't even know, or was taken out. I don't really know what's going on because they drain your life or whatever. So I was just like,
I don't know, the way like they did that whole staticky thing at the beginning. It was definitely played like someone found their Pokédex phone on the road, and I don't know. She might be at the human hospital. Who knows?
It's like Blair Witch, but for Pokemon.
I don't know. This was a little better than Blair Witch. Yeah, I went there.
I would hope so.
Come at me in the comments.
I would hope so.
Well, it also gave some vibes like they did back for Arceus with the whole Hisui and Zorua and Zoro arc. It felt like sort of a continuation of what they started with that, too.
Yeah, that was really good.
One of the most interesting things to me was that they actually have a vocal track in this game, right? So they announced it in September that was going to be part of the game. Mr. Ed Sheeran, oh baby, for whatever reason, the Pokemon Company loves this guy. We don't really know why. Maybe that's because he had there was like an Ed Sheeran event in like Pokemon Go in the end of 2021, maybe. But like for whatever reason, they saw fit to include his track in this game, which is like cool but weird.
You know, maybe it's because I'm in my mid-30s and balding and getting fatter with every passing week. So I'm just going to call this a, old man's hunch. I'm going to say maybe this Ed Sheeran track was not meant for us.
Do you like Ed Sheeran, Ampy? I gotta know.
I've mostly been kind of ignorant to Ed Sheeran's whole rise to fame, funny enough. Like, I know there's a few tracks on the radio and such, but this kind of caught me off guard. I didn't know there was a whole thing going on, but yeah, the first there was the Pokemon Go event. Now suddenly he's got a track in the game and a whole music video to go with it. And it's like, whoa, okay, I guess we're doing this.
That music video is really well made. Like it's actually like a fanboy power fantasy because it's almost like he self-inserted himself into like a Pokemon world. It actually has riffs from the first movie. So like there's some like shots, but except it's Ed Sheeran time, right? So I thought that was actually really cool. And I actually do like this song. I think it's pretty cool, even though like again, like I'm probably not the target demographic, but
this is where I continue to admit I barely know what an Ed Sheeran is.
You're gonna tell me you didn't fire up his track on Pokemon Go? You didn't like blast your volume as you're walking around?
See, I have a younger sister who knows what Ed Sheeran is, and I'm not going to give her that satisfaction that I suddenly have a connection through the Pokermans. So,
ooh, that's cold. Oh my god! Holy smokes!
Come to think of it, she hasn't brought him up in a while either. So I don't know. Maybe this is him realizing he needs to diversify his musical portfolio.
I was scared you're gonna say he was a fad or something like that.
No, I'm not that mean.
Well, I thought we were talking about what is an Ed Sheeran. So he's some kind of strange cryptid that we have yet to discover.
He's a cryptid that has a song in the game. And that was the funny part. They're like, oh, this song's going to be featured in the game. And I'm like, it's the credits song. How can it be anything but the credits song? Like, why are you being ambiguous about it?
They were going to play it for when you started free falling off a cliff and you forgot to let your ride Pokemon out.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, my
hidden
God.
in-game achievement pops up if they play the whole song before you splat the ground. No, I'm just
4 minutes of falling. That's a lot of falling. Oh my god. I guess we should talk about some of the new things this game brings. There's a big new mechanic. All these new games have like a big mechanic, right?
Terastallization, that's a name that they didn't come up with it in marketing while they were trying to figure out how Ed Sheeran fit into all this, but
it's so hard to spell.
In practice, it's probably the most balanced of the one-off gen gimmicks. You have to commit to the one type that the Pokemon is for the rest of the battle, and there's a lot of time that's not very helpful at all. And that's good as opposed to Mega Evolution, where Kangaskhan's going to beat your ass in 2 turns, or the Z move that. Well, I guess that really wasn't very helpful at all. That really was a weird gimmick.
I guess it was fun to watch, I guess, but like, you definitely have to commit, right? So I mean, like, if you turn into that specific type, they can like counter you, but conversely, like, if you know what you're doing, you can try to bamboozle them, right? It's like, you're gonna use a move that I'm weak against, JK, now I'm like strong against your type, but you have to be like really strategic about it, and I think that freedom is cool.
Well, for the longest time, nobody knew what the heck it was supposed to do. Like, okay, your type changes, but then does it do something else? Is it just that?
It was confusing.
And then later it's like, okay, yeah, it does power up moves of that type, but you still have your old type, like, boost as well. So But that didn't come out for quite a long time. In fact, that's kind of hidden behind some stuff. I mean, we're going to get into talking about the main game, too.
There's a lot less ceremony to it, too. You just show up at school and they're like, yeah, they really only give these to talented people most of the time, but you can have one.
Yeah, it's just like, you can have a special orb, and these other schmuckos in school, they don't have a Terra orb. And it's like, oh, okay.
It feels really like I agree, it's kind of the best balanced thing here. It can backfire on you if you're not careful, and you can't just, spam it nonstop throughout the game. You've got to figure out, okay, well, do I want to use it here? Am I going to have some battle I really want to save this for before I get to another Pokemon Center? It just seems like a nice way to handle that rather than just instant massive stat gains and all that kind of stuff.
Anyone can do it, which is the interesting part. And it looks cool, too.
Yeah, you got like this whole transparent crystal thing going on, and you've got all those fancy crowns too. Like some of them get pretty wild and some fun little references in there too.
Absolutely. Another thing that was really weird before the game came out was people were not really sure about the customization options. Like it was very apparent from the pre-release footage that this game is going to be school kids everywhere. They did, however, show later on that there's some pretty baller customization options. And I thought that was pretty cool.
I really liked how much you have to work with right out the gate. Usually, in the past games, you'd get to go to a salon and then you can change your hair and your eye color and all that kind of stuff. But here, you are starting, customize all this stuff about your character. And it isn't even just hair and eye color. It's like all different things like mouth shape and eyebrows and a lot of extra detail.
Thanks for reminding me about Monster Hunter.
Oh my god.
I'm glad they're letting you pick more out from the gate, but I'm getting older, balder, as I keep mentioning.
Yeah.
And it would be great if I could just pick that as my hair color, bald. But I can't. The best I could do in these situations is gray hair at the salon. That's how I can imply to other people that, hey, I'm older. And this isn't a unique problem to Pokemon. I'm in the middle of another game right now, Harvestella. I talked about it on the main show, blah, blah, blah. We're going farming. They also ask you to choose a hairstyle. It's hair parts to the left, hair parts to the right, hair parts backward. Pick a color.
Yeah, this is a lot more options than that. But yeah, that doesn't really let you go bald for
and it's really weird because as you go along, you could see that everybody's going to school.
Everybody,
like it's not just for kids. Like there's open enrollment. People are clearly getting secondary adult education here.
That was the weirdest part to me. Like, I don't necessarily have to become like one of these Pokemon trainers, but even my Pokemon standards, this felt kind of hard for me to get into personally. Just like I don't really care too much for like school kid motifs, so it's like kind of like. Since it was like everywhere, I was just kind of like, I don't know.
And it really disappoints me that you do get those 4 different, seasonal basic outfits, but you had so many options in Sword and Shield, and especially Arceus.
Mm-hmm.
There were dozens upon dozens of things in every category, and now it's okay. Well, you can change your shoes, you can get a different hat, some gloves, but just really not anywhere near the same amount of stuff. It's really a shame.
It's really not, and it's weird to me because why would you wear your school uniform like when you're not at school? Like if you're like on the other side of like the crazy like continent, like would you really need to like keep wearing it? That's like the weirdest part to me. I never understood that.
I went to a Catholic high school, and I have a feeling that if in a parallel universe where they sent us on okay, go on foot and explore the country type scenario. Okay, you can all do whatever you want, but you have to do it in uniform. We're gonna be we're gonna be sticking spies all over the country to make sure that if you're doing the I'm not saying the name of the school, the treasure hunt, that you are in uniform, because when you are a student here, you represent everything this school stands for, and Lord help you.
Even though there's literally just the one school on this continent, there's like no other schools on this place.
But wait, they would know if Professor Oak knows if you're whipping out a bike, they're going to know if you're changing your uniform. There's no escape.
It's so weird. I never understood it. That was the weirdest part to me.
And my high school did not have 4 uniforms for the seasons. I got to tell you, we had to wear the same one all year.
Oh, so these characters are balling. I see how it is.
They got 4 outfits. It's crazy.
Oh man, so many options, especially compared to the games we just played like a few years ago. Oh my
hey,
god.
Other than, clothes, did we have any real expectations going into this?
That is the burning question. I think Sword and Shield have some pretty interesting online connectivity, but it's also really jank. Like whenever you try to like link up with people, like there's funky link codes. It like disconnects from raid lobbies a lot, and so I was distantly hoping that this would improve upon that. The spoiler doesn't really. But the one cool part is that they did advertise playing with your friends, which does work.
I was hoping more than connectivity for it to work. I was hoping for it to really feel like the open world that was advertised. I was feeling really hopeful when they said, we got 3 different storylines and you can tackle it any way you want. And I was like, this is going to be cool. We'll get into just how cool that was a bit later.
Was it live up to the hype?
Yeah, my hope going in was that Arceus did a lot of really cool things. I was hoping they're going to take some of that and put it in here. And we'll get into that, but some of it they did. Other things, it feels like they could have done a bit more. And I figured, yeah, they're probably going to have a few little quality of life improvements. I put here, there's also the risk of stuff going away. We'll definitely get to that too, actually.
We stayed unspoiled as possible going into this game. Even though like I guess there was a leak like almost 2 weeks early, and we had the dodge stuff. So that was a time.
There was a shitty 2 weeks, and I still give Nintendo shit when they did that officially for Sun and Moon. Remember that show where like every other day they just kept playing the theme and showing off all the Pokemon or a new feature and the end game where Red and Blue come back. I'm like, it would have been nice to see some of this on my own.
That's weird. Yeah, it's so weird, man.
Well, here's the thing. Usually, I'm so hungry for info that I actually bite on some of that stuff. But I didn't this time around. This is the first time in a long time I've gone in pretty much unspoiled. And there are a lot of Pokemon I hadn't seen before. And I'm really glad I did that. And honestly, I think I'm going to be better about doing that going forward. But yeah, people were throwing these out left and right just within a few days of the release, and definitely even before the official release. So dodging things was difficult for sure.
It was a time, yeah. Like I rushed this game like in the half week after it came out on stream just so I could avoid the spoilers. But if I hadn't done that, I would have seen like evolutions. I would have seen the whole gist. But it was a good time. We'll get into the game after a short break. Gotta get hydrated and all of that to talk about some treasure hunts, oh baby.
So we're back. We got everybody healed at the Pokemon Center. They hope to see us again. That's a little morbid, but that's just how it works. So how did we all start our treasure hunt?
We started the treasure hunt on Team Dilf, baby. I just like future motifs in general more. So that was kind of why I went Violet. I kind of sort of did all 3 paths like evenly, kind of sort of. I was going to go like in a counterclockwise way, but I kind of just like darted across. I zigzagged across the map, sort of.
Well, for starter wise, I ended up going with Quaxley. Like I was very tempted by Grass Cat. I mean, very good, very excellent choice. Definitely a second choice, but I've kind of been doing this whole thing where I alternate water and fire that I've kept up for several gens at this point. And also, Quaxley had a lot of fun little personality going on in that little intro vid. So that kind of was like, all right, I'm sold on Duck. Let's see where this goes. And
you mean Donald Duck?
Yeah, the resemblance is kind of there a bit, but this Duck did not disappoint. And the treasure hunt, I think I'm the only person who decided to be a gigantic nerd and just actually take classes right out the gate.
I've never heard that. That's interesting. Wow.
I was just curious. It's like, okay, well, this is a whole school motif thing. What do they got going on here? And then I just decided I was going to go like one in, say, Victory Road, one of the Titans, one of the Team Star bases. And then I realized very quickly that it isn't really intended for you to do that. So I just kind of went back and forth, left and right, as I just kind of felt like it. Didn't have a clear game plan in mind.
Oh, speaking of not very clear game plans, I also took Quaxley which was because of the Donald Duck thing, which is weird because I'm usually on Team Grass and Greenfire, and this is the second time I've started out in a generation picking the water type, so I'm expanding my horizons some more, I guess. And with my water duck, I'm doing the game, and we're going on this treasure hunt, and he's saying, and then we're getting other suggestions. If you want to go gyms, start heading east. If you want to start looking for legends, we should go west. I decided I should be a big asshole and go back out south. That's not going to bite me in the ass.
Trend breaker Steve right here. He's going to buck the advice.
They told me to go where I wanted to go, and they said I'm not going to give in to peer pressure at school. No way. So I'm going back south. The way I came and back up the mountain that we really weren't encouraged to go up, and that's where things started being about 10 levels higher than I was, and I'm standing there with my Quaxley and Pawmi and 4 other guys that really weren't going to last very long doing that. And I'm throwing paralysis on, and I'm catching a few of these guys. And I'm doing pretty good walking around this path until I find a terastallized Leafeon at level 50. And I decide,
level 50?
You know what? I think I'm done seeing how far I can get with this path. And I booked it back to the school. I'm like, and you know what? Let's go west. I like going counterclockwise, and that's where I went from there.
Yeah, this game is interesting that way. It throws some curveballs that you don't expect. I think for the most part, like, I didn't really get owned by anything, but I also kind of went west.
Look, I've been playing. I've been playing RPGs for a while. Dragon Quest, we all know about crossing the bridge. You know, like
yep.
That's exactly what I did. I know what's up. I knew the risks.
That's the most important part: being aware of the risks.
I made sure we were saved and resaved, and like, I had and there's always a spotter that would have dragged my ass back to the Pokemon Center if I died, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how it works. Yeah, you just get dragged back. Yeah,
I mean, we did have a school. It's not like we started in the forest and they're like, "Hey, you want the kitty, the crocodile, or the duck?" And then they're like, "Okay, you're on your own. Bye-bye." It's not like they did that.
I got the uniform on. I'm part of the school.
So on that note, I guess it's a good time to ask, what do we think the game did good?
I have 3 words, which is to say, I really like the seamlessness, the briskness, and the openness. And I think this is the closest game to seeing Pokemon as living, breathing entities to this point, right? So they're practically like everywhere on the world map. You've got like what are practically families of Pokemon just chilling there, which feels weird when you like beat them up for experience. But you'll see Pokemon in towns just chilling with people, and they feel like they're building biomes, right? Which like the Sword and Shield DLC kind of sort of build biomes, but this does like the whole bit, right? So you'll see like clusters of things that fit deserts, Arctic tundras, so on and so forth. And like even as you go through towns, you'll see them walk around with you. There's a lot of Pokemon and people, so it feels like sort of a active space.
I like seeing the Pokemon everywhere too, although it was funny to just automatically battle Pokemon too, since that's the thing you can do now, and just watch them beat up an entire family of whatever for a quick experience.
Yeah.
Oh, look at the birdies. I need feathers. Go get them.
Yeah. It's just like, it's such a step up from like the random encounters that we did like barely just over half a decade ago. It's weird to think like all these Switch games have like don't have random encounters.
Yeah, it was kind of weird in Sword and Shield. Like they tried making them feel alive-ish. Like you'd have some of the weaker ones like come up to you and stare at you.
Yeah.
Like almost. You're so close.
Yeah. This just furthers that, right? So I mean that's pretty cool.
Just to kind of expand on the whole families, it was also neat how in this you've got, if you just kind of leave your character idle for a bit, a lot of them will just kind of surround you over time. So you can end up coming back to your game after putting it down, and suddenly you've got like a swarm of Eevee or something around you, and it's kind of clever how they did that. And the whole families thing, that's something I feel like not even Arceus did exactly, where you've got these clear like clusters and family units and so forth. So it is cool to see them kind of build on that here too.
Yeah, a lot of the Pokemon Arceus were just kind of isolated, I think. It's interesting seeing how they like grouped everything together. Did we have any favorite like story arcs amongst these three?
I mean, I was fond of the Victory Road arc. It was not perfect because I like the idea of having challenges that were akin to what they did in Sun and Moon, but come on, guys, there was no way they programmed that psychic one. Like, let's push a button for 2 minutes, even longer. And they're like, did I do it? The game says I did it. Okay, I guess this counts. But I liked how the gym leaders all felt like respected leaders of their communities. I mean, that's how they always were presented as, but I felt like between, you go to the gym and you see him like sort of having jobs, especially Larry, who really had a job.
Yeah,
Oh, Larry.
I love Larry so fucking much.
He's so popular. I wasn't expecting that. Yeah, but ordinary ass businessman, just doing his thing, and he happens to also be a Pokemon pro as well. So I mean, that was kind of interesting.
I need Larry to come back. I need him to. I need him to be in the inevitable black and white remake, just eating a Castilia cone and have him be, oh, hello. They told me I needed to expand my horizons, so here I am.
It's like, I don't remember you in black and white. What? Are my 2011 memories betraying me?
Larry is the mood of our times. Just a normal guy. Just trying to do the best we can.
Like literally a normal guy. Yeah.
He's behind on a job that only he cares about. I mean, you gotta respect the hustle.
Yeah. Oh my god, definitely. Yeah. I really like these gym leaders in general. Like they all seem like they have like pretty interesting designs and personalities. I think I'd like every single one of them. I really liked Katie. She is like a bug leader, but she's also like a chef, so that felt pretty interesting and wacky. Kofu is like a big buff scatterbrained chef. You have to like help him run errands as part of like a gym test because he can't keep his like thing straight.
I think it was implied that they just made that the gym test because they needed to save face as a whole. Hey, don't tell anyone that the gym leader wasn't in town to do a real gym test.
Yeah,
and that he dropped his wallet. You didn't take his credit card numbers, did you? Okay, good. Okay, thanks.
It's 50 grand. Go and get us something, okay?
It's also at this auction house too. It's like, wow, you're having like this kid like bet on stuff. It's like, I don't know. It's a little weird.
I am sure there is a culture thing that we are missing out on because we are not in Spain. But
maybe, yeah.
If any Spanish people listen to this show and want to educate us, I will be happy to listen.
At Fine Time Podcast, do they bet on stuff at auction houses? And can anyone do it? I also really like Tulip. She does like fashion work. She has like a schedule. She like enters the gym battle like on the phone. And she has to like fit it into her schedule. So that was like pretty fun.
I thought it was weird that they stuck her in the desert though.
It was really weird. Yeah, that was kind of strange too. Yeah.
Like a couple make more sense, like Iono's in the big, super urban, flashy lights kind of place. Mm-hmm. And you got, Kofu's hanging by the seaside doing this whole chef thing. But yeah, kind of the desert seems like kind of an odd place for that.
I liked how Iono blackmailed Clavel into helping her out with the gym challenge.
I did like the presentation of that one quite a bit. There's like overlay, there's like streamer overlays on it.
Yeah, they went all out for that one. It was honestly definitely one of the more memorable of the little gym tasks. Just got to bring in those sweet, sweet subscriber numbers.
Yeah, she's all about those numbers. Oh my god!
I think they just stopped short of throwing in those air horns. Like, they couldn't spare like $1 for those.
You gotta ask Big Man to bring in the air horns. Because that's what he does every single Splatfest, right?
Yep.
Yeah, they're cool. Regarding other plot lines, I actually did like the Team Star plot line. Even though like it was kind of very predictable and convoluted for some reason. It's like these 5 deviants from school, so like the plot addresses bullying, right? Which is almost a pretty serious subject, and it sort of does it in a heartfelt way, even though like the way it gets there has like very weird twists and turns, and like it's like this master plan that has layers of like things there that don't really make total sense. I respected what they were going for, but maybe not so much the execution.
Over on Cartoon Twitter, we have a theory. Yes, we're going back to Splatoon again, where someone was on vacation here in the 90s and they watched Nickelodeon on the hotel room TV, and that stuck with them until the early 2010s, and they got that and they just threw all of that into Splatoon, and we've been enjoying it ever since. I'm gonna add in a new theory that some other one on staff was here on vacation and they were just subjected to episode after episode of very special shows of things here, because here I feel like they just stopped short of Clavel stepping on a chair out in the middle of the field that wasn't there before, going, "Hey, it's me, Clive. We had a lot of fun today, but you know what's not fun? Vitamin abuse."
They really rubbed this whole thing in too. Like, we knew right away that like this headmaster is disguising as like this ordinary like whatever, right? But like, so we weren't fooled by it. But the game keeps leaning into it like over and over again, and I thought it was really overwrought, but still funny. It's like weird.
Well, he keeps breaking character to be, actually be the headmaster to the, the other kids' lackeys that he keeps finding it right outside all these Team Star plants along the way.
Yeah, he just happens to show up. That's right. The timing is so convenient during every
shows up,
fight.
and there's always some other smaller kid outside. He's like, "Oh, you should tell me about this Team Star fellow who that I've never heard of before. This is very interesting."
And like, whenever you take out one of the 5 bosses, it's like your other helper NPC comes in conveniently. I'm just like this is so like suspect, man. It's so weird.
What I love is that you've got the option the whole time to actually go along with the Clive thing or not, and you can actually get some funny responses. It's like one of the few cases where you've got 2 choices, but not really, but it actually does change some of the dialogue a bit.
Yeah, most dialogue choices in this game don't really change the outcome. I mean, that's a Japanese RPG trope, but it's like at the same time, like if you actually try to diss his disguise, he's like, "No, like what are you talking about?"
I'm just an ordinary school student, no more, no less.
Right? Yeah. Smile and nod.
You hip cats, you.
Regarding other things we really liked about this game, though, there's a lot of quality of life improvements. There's like some items that typically you would need to grind a lot for in previous games, with these like, very specific battles or like whatever. But in this game, you just like buy like these things. So these mints, and there's like these bottle caps that can adjust stats.
And going back to the families, we can just massacre entire innocent families for their parts and use that for money.
That's so weird.
It is a little bit weird when you stop and think about it, yeah. Especially because there's like higher value stuff than others. So if you really want to go after the chances for the sweet, sweet experience, you get some high quality, high priced materials too. And it's just like, what? Are you sending a message, Pokemon? I don't know if I like where this is going.
Daddy needs those bottle caps.
Yeah. I never understood the use of bottle caps to maximize your stat. It's like weird.
Okay, some people really, really like those bottle caps, man. That's all you got to know.
I feel like that's all that it really is. There's just one guy in every country that knows how to increase individual values, and that one guy just really likes bottle caps.
Look, whatever makes him happy, whatever floats his boat, I guess, right? But wow, that's something. I think another thing that I really liked was raiding. I actually got super sucked into Sword and Shield raids, and I spammed a lot of them. The years after release, they kept on releasing new Pokemon and new different like events in which like you could do like this special like limited event to try to get an increased chance of like a shiny Magikarp and stuff like that, right?
God, I was in there almost every time they did that. Those increased shiny rates. I was up way too late certain nights trying to get those stupid shinies.
It was a cool way to keep you engaged with the game, though. But
it worked.
Yeah, it really did work. It's just that these Scarlet and Violet raids feel like those Sword and Shield ones, but like sped up to the max, right? Like super amplified. Just because like before you kind of had to wait there and wait till everyone did their turn, and it took a while to see the animations that you couldn't skip. But in this game, everyone like attacks at the same time, so it keeps it a lot more fluid, right? It's just that sometimes the sync kind of gets a little weird, and there's almost like rollback like artifacts. Like you'll see like enemies like life gauge go down, and it'll like kind of like pop back up. And I'm like, wait, what? And the game will like hang up for like a few seconds, so you don't know if like there's like a connection problem for a while. But it's just trying to seemingly sync everybody up. That's like the weirdest part.
Yeah, I gotta say, after a while, yes, the Sword Shield raids were a bit of a drag because, okay, you find the raid, maybe wait for some people, hope it's actually the one you're looking to do, wait for everyone to take a turn. Oh, it's raising shields again. Oh, it's re-renewing the shields it just put up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's going to throw the ball. Time to throw the ball. Maybe, oh no, it disappeared further into the cave. Oh no, time to do this shit again.
Yeah.
But no, it's real snappy, even though it gets weird sometimes. I'm doing the fancy Charizard raid with these two guys hours before close, and we get them, and then it gets real confused doing math at that point, and Vin had to explain that part to me because I'm standing there and I'm waiting. And I'm waiting for that, oh no, you got disconnected message, but it just really needed to think about whether we actually bought that Charizard or not.
Yeah, like the last turn is so weird. Like sometimes, because there's a running time gauge, if it runs out, everyone gets kicked out of the raid. But sometimes it's like, you get like a quote unquote overtime turn. I don't even know if that's like deliberate, but sometimes it's like, do we do it? Do we not do it? Do we run out of time? Do we not run out of time? It's like, I would still ultimately really take these over the Sword and Shield ones, but it's just stuff like that.
I mean, there's kind of improved some of this, but who knows?
Well, I do think at this point we've had a couple of extra special events, and those have been pretty fun, I'd say. Like for the special events, you usually need to coordinate a bit more. So we've had Charizard and Cinderace. It seems like you've actually got multiple options. It's not just you have to bring this exact team or else you're going to fail. Like you've got a few different strategies you can do. So it gives you a little more flexibility, and there's ways to kind of adapt and decide on what you want to do.
They always announced like these events well in advance. It was probably about like 2 or 3 weeks after the game came out. They're like, oh, there's gonna be like a Dragon Charizard that's like super strong or like whatever. So a lot of people were trying to theory craft and figure out what they wanted to use against the Charizard. So people were saying, oh, use Azumarill, right, or something like that. And then, but there's actually like way more options. You could have done like Sylveon. You could have done like
Darkspawn.
Thank you. And one that I didn't even think about was Grimmsnarl. You could run Grimmsnarl as like support. So I mean, we tried to coordinate who would back up the other guys as they're like amping up their stats. And like I think it's just really cool that the game makes you like think tactically like that in ways that you wouldn't ordinarily think, right?
One other thing I liked was in those 3 different paths, you had 3 different gameplay styles you could roll with. Victory Road is all the usual stuff that you're familiar with. Challenge gyms and occasionally fight your rival in between, that sort of thing. And then you've got the Titan battles that are interesting because you've got a little bit of 2-on-1 action going on with another one of your friends. And you get a lot of movement abilities through that. Like once I figured out that's what those got for you, I went and aimed for those whenever I saw a new one.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the Team Star stuff, they tried to do something interesting with the whole Let's Go thing. I think it was a little bit of a mixed bag there, but the actual fights against the leaders ended up being surprisingly challenging, especially when you get there and you're like, oh no, I'm 10 levels under. I'm probably going to need to come back later.
I was there.
But if you tackle things out of order and get a surprise challenge, sometimes it's fun trying to see like, okay, can I actually do this if I just mix things around? You can definitely say something about was this really well balanced or not, but I like that you could give yourself a little extra challenge if you were really looking for it. If you thought, okay, let's just go back to this later, there's usually something else you can do that's going to be more reasonable.
Yeah, and it's not like the game really punishes you if you like that much, right? If you happen to get wiped. So I mean, like, I kind of rushed the beginning, and I was actually under-leveled versus the gym battle, but like, it doesn't take like too long to get up like your levels up anyway, so I thought that was kind of nice, even though like there's weirdly prickly parts like that, but I did appreciate that freedom, like seeing rando giant guys in the desert.
We all have fun, but we can't call ourselves an objective show unless we start, dragging our baby through the mud a bit and start talking about what we didn't like about this game. I'll start. After taking away one of the neater parts of Arceus, they took away being able to catch Pokemon without battling. I get that that was more experimental and a different kind of game, really. But, after all that, fun animal stuff and the families or whatever, I thought it would have been nice that if we could sneak up behind one and get one attempt in before, it gets mad and runs away, or gets mad and fights you anyway, or, something like that instead of, what we got.
But you can still sneak around, so that's the weird part to me. Like, you still have the Arceus sneaking, but you can't really take advantage of it, right? And really, the only purpose of hitting ZR this time is to get, like, a first turn? And, like, that's, like, way, like, less hype than bamboozling some Pokemon, right? I thought that was weird.
Like, I do appreciate they at least tried to keep something like that in, but yeah, I wish it'd been a little more than just, you get a free turn and maybe it's easier to catch, but it's still just like, it'd really be nice to do a little more of the rapid fire stuff you had going in Arceus.
Yeah, that was just so much fun.
And in the beginning, there were those, I always forget the names, the spider Pokemon in the trees. Like, it would have been fun to get, like, one wing up there and, one attempt before, gets mad and does something. I don't know.
Yeah, because you can lock onto them, but it almost seems like, is there really a point to locking onto them, right? Because if you were to lock onto something up in a tree and, like, bop it, like, that would be cool, but instead they kind of make you, like, run into the tree with your dinosaur bicycle or whatever, or motorcycle, and then you have to engage them? I don't know. It feels a little weirdly disconnected to me, but...
Honestly, it also felt like the lock-on was way less responsive than it was in Arceus. It feels like you have to get really close for it to work. Whereas in Arceus, you could zoom in from a distance, but it just felt a lot more fiddly with me this time around.
I feel like I couldn't always lock onto the stuff I wanted to lock onto, so I had to, like, kind of stand in the right spot and kind of sort of right stick onto the right thing. I don't know. It was a little messy to me. I have 3 more words. That is, I felt the game was messy, inconsistent, and over-ambitious. And it felt like every single step that this game made forwards was counterbalanced by a step backwards. And I've been describing this game to people a lot as it's fun, but it kind of doesn't look so good, right? So I don't really like having to put that but in there, but I mean, it's sort of true.
I'm sorry, but we do need to talk about the graphical performance for at least a minute for to get that Andre stamp of approval.
It's the overplayed point, but I mean, you can't ignore it.
I'm sorry, but even at the very beginning of the game, when Nimona is taking you out to look at the vast horizon, look, there's forests and rivers and deserts. Look at all the stuff Paldea has to offer. And I'm pretty sure I made the tweet online. You got to dial this back a little bit. Like, you can't be this proud of this.
The pristine nature of this not so populated, expansive prairie or whatever. There
Look
isn't
at all
trees
this
you look
nature and
closely.
shit. Like, what? No. What are we doing?
You know, the funny part is, like, Sword and Shield do the nature thing better in some sections. Like, that opening town's, like, way more trees. I don't know. This game doesn't have that many trees in that opening shot. I don't know. That's weird, man.
I thought it was odd that they just focused on that at all, especially, after Arceus has had a lot of woodlands and things.
Yeah, so bizarre. Yeah, and like, and
This
oh my
concludes
God.
this includes the graphic segment of the show.
there might be a rib here and there, maybe, but yeah, and like, even like the designs are kind of inconsistent. Like, the gym leaders and the team star leaders are like super off the hook. They have really whimsical, wacky designs. And some of those team star leaders have like crazy costumes and stuff like that. But I kind of feel like the lackeys and some of the NPCs and even like the Elite Four, they look pretty ordinary in comparison. So like, that inconsistency to me is like weird. Yeah,
one
I
of
don't
the
know.
Elite Four is Larry, and he's the best, so we can't pick on it too much.
But does he get to? Is he so cool that he gets to be both a gym leader and an Elite Four member? That's weird, man.
Apparently so. I mean, either that or Gita couldn't, find anyone else.
I couldn't find anyone else. Or was it just asset reusing?
Oh, no, there's a thought.
I don't know. I'm not going to take this Larry slander on the air. I'm sorry.
We're getting kicked off the pod.
He's doing his best, okay? We can only give him so much guff.
He's doing his best. He's getting to do two roles at the same time, man. It's like weird.
Hey, he sort of changed types at the end. He just branched over to flying and what is flying but normal with wings. But he tried.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, I guess it was a switch up. That's what I could say about it. Whether it was a good switch up, I'm a little undecided on that one. But I think the biggest thing, the menu navigation is pretty annoying. When you're changing boxes, like the sprites loaded one at a time. Like, when you change boxes, it's like empty and they like pop in. They don't even pop in order. They pop in like random ass spots on the screen. I'm like, what the? And sometimes like there's like carryover sprites from like a prior box, and then they like shift over to like what you're like actually like in, right? So it's like so weird, man. And like, there's no easy way to move like multiple Pokemon across boxes. So that's like kind of bizarre, and you can't even scroll by pages. You have to do like one by one, right?
I like having the one box for battlers. And when other Pokemon end up in there, I'll select them all and try to move to a box. I'm like, oh, this one is open. Oh no, I have Pokemon in this one already. Thanks, game.
Yeah, it's hard to tell because again, like, they don't load in all at the same time, right? So.
Well, what really gets me about that is that this was something that was solved in Arceus. If you want to move a bunch of Pokemon to a new box, you could just select a bunch, doesn't matter what shape they're in, and then you could choose a box from the list and it would automatically fill the spaces without needing to be the same shape or anything. Mm-hmm. And then for some reason, they got rid of that with this. If you want to move a bunch of Pokemon at once, you have to go through each box one by one. You can't go directly to the list. And then if you selected them all and oops, well, they got enough spaces open, but they're not the same shape that you selected them, then you can't do it. It just feels like this was something that was already taken care of in past games, and it really got frustrating trying to move things around, especially once you get a bunch of new Pokemon going.
Yeah, if your boxes are full, it's just the way it loads. It doesn't feel good, right? That's just, man. And like, the Pokédex similarly is super messy too. Like, you can't go page by page in that one. You have to like hold the freaking direction down and like scroll through one by one. And then like, there are multiple points where I'm just like, screw this. I'm just going to go A to Z so I don't have to scroll so much.
Yeah, and again, this is something Arceus had down. You could even sort by region to make it easier to sort. You could skip, a page at a time, like a dozen or so at once, rather than scrolling through one by one. It takes a long time to get through. When I was wrapping up the Pokédex, I had to really spend a lot of time scrolling through just to see what I was even missing. They don't even let me
me
sort
too.
by like what do you have or not.
I made a Google spreadsheet because I didn't want to scroll through the whole thing over and over again. Like, just seriously, I just marked this number I'm missing, this number I'm missing, this number, and it's just like, because I don't want to have to like hold right to get to number 200. That like sucks, right? It just doesn't. Again, that doesn't feel good.
So, going back to, things we liked about the storyline or whatever, something I really didn't like was how we didn't see Larry enough. No, just kidding. It was really about how... I'm kidding. It was really about how, they told us to... I brought this up earlier. They told us, go, explore. This is your treasure hunt. But guys, it turned out there really was a recommended order to do things, as we discovered.
Mm-hmm.
And, even though it's a pain in the ass to navigate, I like filling in Pokedex entries, evolving them, throwing them back in the box, trying someone new. So I'm gaining levels, and that was kind of a problem too, because I'm suddenly over leveled for a lot of the game. I'd find a decent challenge at some point, but then I'd go back to another gym and I'm stomping them in as many turns as they had Pokemon. It would have been some work, I guess, but having it scale based on having the things like the bases and the gym scale based on however many others you did, would have been more rewarding. We live in this open world game trend right now, and reward the weirdo that's willing to run all the way to the other end of the map without and running away from everything. If I'm going to run all the way to that ski slope, have that level 5 Citadel ready for me in a gym battle. Okay, come on.
Yeah, they don't scale based on completion, right? So it's really just like it's geography based, right? So like if you go to the upper left part of the map, like you're gonna find level 50s or whatever, but there's a sort of like stealth order that the game doesn't tell you about, and like you kind of just have to like feel it through, and like that just feels kind of awkward to me, right? And I mean, at the same time, yeah, there is a sort of Dragon Quest element. Yeah, if you go across this area, you're gonna get bodied or like whatever, but at the same time, not scaling based on completed gyms, I feel like it's kind of antiquated. It's weird.
I mean, I was fine with the wild Pokemon being where they were, but I mean, like, I just found it weird that the different challenges you had to do didn't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And to some degree, like, this game was advertising itself as play however you like. I almost feel like it's kind of a big fat lie in some ways, because it's sort of, kind of, but not really, right?
The Legends storyline where you get the navigation pieces for your running or bicycling dragon. That's based on however many sandwiches it eats, not necessarily who you find first. So, really, what's the line?
Yeah, it's kind of a strangely pseudo-free form.
It's open world-esque if you're more experienced gamers like us. If you're younger, not so much.
Yeah.
One last note on this is also some of the areas were really deceptive. Like I made it to the desert and I was thinking, okay, well, the wild Pokemon here are like level low to mid 20s. And then I saw that Titan rolling around in the desert. I thought, hey, I'll challenge them. Whoops, turns out that's like a mid 40s level thing, and I died painfully. Well, as much as Pokemon allows, I fainted painfully.
Fainted painfully. It really makes it awkward because you're like, how much do I over level? And if I do over level, I'm going to like curb stomp like the end of like this game or whatever. Because like I was like vastly over leveled for like a lot of the end of those Victory Road gym leader battles, right? And like whereas ones prior to that were harder. So that's like the weird part.
So what happens after we go explore and do all the stories, Vin?
So this game, despite saying they can play however you like, and it's actually a big fat lie, it's sort of like a Mega Man game. It all comes together in one giant climax, and the three paths get shoehorned into one ending, which takes place in this very creatively named area called Area Zero. Definitely unique. And so you have like the three amigos from these paths, and all of a sudden, as you go into Area Zero, the game sort of switches everything up on you. You don't have access to your motorcycle dinosaur. You don't have access to the mini-map. The game keeps spamming auto-scrolling dialogue between like the 3 school kid rangers, and like you kind of have to stop and stand still as those dialogue scrolls by, and there's no voice acting, so you have to stand still and read it, right? And yeah, it's just it's awkward, right? And to me, I think this changes too many variables at the same time, and having to just suddenly walk everywhere when you use your freaking like dinosaur for almost like the entire game, I think that's kind of just a bit of a slog to like walk everywhere.
I need to ask, did Area Zero look particularly futuristic when you were going down in your games?
No, because it was supposed to be like untouched nature.
Okay, because that's very much what it was in Scarlet, and it did fit that motif in a way we'll get to in just a little bit. I needed to be sure about that before we went along. I wanted to make sure you weren't playing around in a chrome dome before I said something else later.
I wish it was a chrome dome. Oh my god, if I had like the Technodrome in my game, oh, I love that.
Yeah, I was like, there's the stations, and that's about it as far as anything techie. And yeah, that's, I think, just the same in Scarlet.
No, yeah, it's very much Land of the Lost, land time forgot down there, aside from the stations.
Yeah, but these stations are checkpoints literally named 1 through 4, so you're teleporting to like research station 1, 2, and 3, and it's just like just this whole naming is like very drab to me, and like it felt like for an end game area where the game is supposed to build up to a climax, it felt pretty underwhelming to me. Even though like there's some crystal caverns, I guess, but like the untouched nature parts outside, they didn't really look like much, and the internet was joking how the lighting was just like blown out. It was like very bright for some reason, but to me, I just like, there's not much to look at as you're walking around, man. And
well, the sun was very intense millions of years ago.
And I guess it'll wrap around again a million years from now. Who knows?
Oh my goodness gracious. I was thinking to myself, because I'm a big fat nerd, that there's actually an Area Zero in Mega Man 04, and like from 2005, like it had a lot more like flora everywhere. Like it was actually like this untouched nature preserve or whatever, right? But this is like, really, ultimately, I didn't necessarily think this played the best. I was hoping the whole time that like Ed Sheeran would deliver me from like my torment.
Imagine if they were just playing that in the background the whole time while you're making the descent down Area Zero.
Oh, well, that would have been great. Oh, I would have enjoyed that. But instead, it has this choir music. It's like, dude, I don't even know. It's like this semi-serious.
They're doing the dialogue in the background that you're trying to read, and you got Ed Sheeran in the background going on with battles on occasion.
Oh my god! Oh my god! That would have been amazing. Holy
then
smokes.
it would have really fulfilled the promise of the song is featured in the game.
And the sad part is that I don't really follow the modding scene, but from my understanding, the first mod for this game was to remove Ed Sheeran from the game. And then to me, I'm like, why would you take away one of the few sources of joy in this game? It's like messed up, man. Why would you do that? Oh, it's screwed up. But this all ultimately kind of builds up to something that I do think was cool enough, I guess. And there's like robot AI shenanigans at the end of the game, and it's a twist. There's like a plot twist.
Oh yes, Pokemon MILF version and Pokemon DILF version turn into Pokemon mommy issues and Pokemon daddy issues when it turns out that the reason mom and dad couldn't leave Area Zero was because they died a few years before the game started and replaced themselves with robots of themselves that were controlling the rest of their research. And I needed to confer this with you Violet playing people, because it was the same reveal in Scarlet. And you might recall the marketing where Toro's a scientist of the future, and he likes the future. And we got Sada, she would give anything to go back to the past. Like, the marketing had everything to do with that, which is fine. It is good to have that contrast, but oh my god, there is no, you can't tell me that there is any way that this Land of the Lost lady who wants to rebuild Jurassic Park or whatever her plan was going to be was able to build a robot clone of herself that was going to pick up the project exactly where laid off. There had to be a better way to do this than they did. And they started off the right way, too. We never see the professor the entire time. We just get vague transmissions through video or the phone the entire time. And they get vaguer and vaguer as it goes along. And that's great. Right up until that point, I'm like, oh no. There had to be a better way. Like, I thought it would have been great if we got to the end and it turned out the opposite professor was holding the other one hostage or something.
Oh, that's too much. Well, I was about to say this too much for Pokemon, but then there's like Professor Death, right? So man, that was already kind of a bit weird for Pokemon.
Yeah, like hearing that it was the same kind of deal for Scarlet as Violet felt like this really does work better for Violet. Like I thought it'd be cool if for Scarlet it was some kind of weird like primordial biological clone thing and as like a bio contrast to the like techno AI thing. But I mean, that would probably mean changing around a lot of things in that whole end sequence where you'd have like two completely separate aesthetics, which would have been cool, but yeah, I guess that would have been a lot of work.
Yeah, it would have been a lot of work, but at the same time, this doesn't make any sense, though, in Scarlet, it seems.
Right?
Well, the first part in Area Zero made sense because I'm in Area Zero, a spot untouched by time, and I keep walking into these super evolved Pokemon and fucking dinosaurs walking around. That part made sense. It was when the robot showed up that we got... Maybe we needed to spend a bit more time on the draft. You were so close, guys.
Needle off the record, yeah, pretty much.
Like I'd say, I guess they're just trying to split the difference ultimately. Like the past.
That's what happened.
But like, I'll be honest, I actually did really enjoy a lot of this whole ending sequence. But I'm not going to pretend there weren't issues with some of how this was all handled. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not like they, didn't keep everything in, didn't they, Ampy?
Yeah, about that. There were this was so weird when I learned it, but apparently for the first time in 9 generations, there's no way to actually play in set mode. Like before, even back in Red and Blue, you had shift and you had set. So with shift, it just would automatically go to the next Pokemon an opponent has, and you wouldn't have the option to switch. Now you've just always got that option. Like my whole theory is that when you fight the Team Star captains, it forces set mode against you for their final thing, where you're fighting the car itself. You don't get a chance to switch. And for some reason, that's the only time that applies. So my guess is they just decided to make an exception there and then not give the option anywhere else. You also can't disable animations, which is another thing you've always been able to do, and they just can't for some reason.
That's so weird. Yeah. I try to do both, by the way, turn it into set mode and disable animations, but just to see if I could. It's like, nope, they're not even there.
But how are you going to know the leafage if you don't see them just flinging a few leaves at each other? How are you going to know that?
Yeah, funny enough, there's no lottery this time around. That's been around since Gold and Silver. And what I really liked back in even as recent as Sword and Shield was getting a whole bunch of different trainer IDs from random surprise trades and trying to boost my odds in the lottery. It'd be one of those little things to check in every day. And it's just kind of weird that after it's another long-held tradition, just like, whoop, it's gone.
I think much like how a bunch of things that were in the global trade system were stuck into a Pokemon Home and we had to pay for it, I wouldn't rule them out just, sticking this into whatever the expansion pass is going to be. It'll be scummy, but I wouldn't rule it out. Like ring it, show up with the nurse and talk to the guy in the corner and see if you won the lotto.
Yeah.
This is new and fun. We've never done this before.
Yup, definitely new and fun. Even though I spammed it all the time before.
So yeah, this skipped Gen 8, but I really wanted them to just bring it back and keep it there. The one thing I really liked about Gen 7 was they had this option in the PokéPelago or whatever they called it, where you can just stick eggs in the spot or whatever and just leave them there and come back to them later and they'd be ready to hatch like a mobile game. And maybe I'm just lazy. Maybe I'm just trying to manage my time a little better. But maybe I'm more willing to set and forget these eggs instead of just wasting a party slot all the time.
Yeah, the way you breed in this game is weird. You have to have a picnic to breed. That sounds really weird out of context. I'll never say this phrase ever again. But I mean, you have a picnic with your Pokemon in the overworld, and that's how they breed, right? And sometimes you're sitting there for a very long time, right? So like, if you have like a Ditto or like some other like rando, you're just like sitting there twiddling your thumbs and hoping that an egg shows up. And I thought that was kind of like weird. And you can kind of sort of expedite the process if you eat a sandwich that has egg power and that boosts your chances. What am I saying on the air? Oh my god, what is this game making me say on the air? But like, you're still waiting, right? And like, there's some times where like eggs would pop up back to back, and other times I'm like sitting there for like minutes. I'm like, yo, is the game working? Like, I don't know.
I found out about this by accident, and that's how I found out that one of my favorite doggos has a fun egg move, but I'm like, this was not very intuitive or very fun. I'm like, when I said I want to set it down and come back to it later, I didn't mean while the game was still on. I meant, put it down, go to work, come back, and then, find a bunch of eggs ready. Not what this was.
Yeah, I don't know. This is weird. It's nice not having to go to like a designated area, I guess, but then again, the game's like finicky about where you can actually have a picnic. It needs to be level. If it's like slightly sloped, like you can't have a picnic.
It's gonna slide off the table.
Where else is the picnic table gonna go? Yeah, you got a whole ass picnic table in your backpack somehow. The future.
Yeah, that's how it works. Yeah.
Okay, one other thing. We've already established that I am a gigantic nerd, but even I thought the classes side content got really tedious ultimately. Like, you've got all these different subjects, you've got things like battle studies, home economics, and all this kind of stuff, but it takes a long, we've got math. And but it takes a long time to go through each of those, and it doesn't really feel like the rewards are super great either. You do actually get some interesting things, like I think the math and the biology classes talk about a critical hit is a 1 in 24 chance. The odds of a shiny Pokemon are about 1 in 4,000 and so forth. But it mostly feels like this is where the usual tutorials would go. It's handy for beginners, but doesn't really feel like a necessary thing. Even though they're playing up the whole, academy motif and all that, there's other things you can do, like you got some little social links with each of the instructors where you can end up getting some bonuses through that as well and different items. But you're probably playing this game because you want to go out and catch those wacky little critters. You don't want to sit inside a classroom and do schoolwork.
It was kind of weird because it's just occurred to me now that you're saying this. I feel like most of the games up to this point had a Pokemon school in one of the first towns where there's other kids in school, and if you really want to, you could read all this shit if you want, but you don't have to. And I guess this is just a really much longer version of that.
Yeah.
It really is, yeah.
But at the same time, it was also really weird when you're going to, what's his name's class? Hassel's art class, and he's inviting Brashius in as his guest lecturer, and you're trying to figure out when if they're still talking about art halfway through the class. Like there are, and I'm not a prude, but there are children in this classroom.
Oh, he's a guest air quotes lecturer. I gotta be really honest with both of you. I only took 2 art classes the entire game, and I ignored the rest.
Why would you take art classes? That would be like me taking lunch.
It wasn't much of a class, I guess, right? If I just did what I know already, I guess. But it seemed like there were some cool lore shenanigans and some character development, but I just didn't really feel like sitting there. I just didn't really feel like they fit into the experience, so like I just didn't do it. Also, like, they bombard you with classes. Like, when you like start the game off, there's like lists, there's like a giant screen full of like things. It's like, you unlock so and so, you unlock this, you unlock this. I'm just like, eh.
In the end, I did do all of the classes, but it was a chore. Some of the stories worked pretty cute along the way, but This is not the famed Fire Emblem Three Houses games, Garreg Mach Monastery, where not only having things like the monastery and classrooms within boosted character stats and gave you important plot points, it was also pretty much a character in and of itself. Here, I feel like Naranja or whatever, I know it's called something else in Violet.
I think it's Uva. I think.
Yeah.
Uva Academy could have just been a very touristy, the world's biggest Pokemon Center, just in the middle of the continent. Just a random reference point they got by throwing a dart at the Paldea map. Like, because what else is it really doing out there? It's healing Pokemon. It's got a bunch of fucking stores with clothes and tchotchkes and sandwiches and whatever else. I guess that flows me into another point. Visiting towns did kind of feel like I was less like I was visiting towns and more like I was passing through them to do the errands across the game.
Yeah.
I was more than a little turned off when I was outside catching my first 6 Pokemon and they show up to this outdoor thing that looked like a gas station. Like, oh no, that's the Pokemon Center.
And so they're totally gas stations in this game. I mean, seriously. With the motorcycle dino.
I appreciate that we don't have to, load in a building or whatever. But, in JRPG tradition, these are the inns. You healed up, you look at your options, see if you need to fix anything, and you size up goings-ons from the locals. There's a coziness from that is gone, and that spreads out to the town proper. You can only go into the buildings you're supposed to go to, like shops and gyms. And you don't even really go into most of the shops. You just pop in and a list shows up. Hey, what do you want to buy?
Yeah, that's right.
Like the one restaurant you can go into is the sandwich shop. And that's mostly to talk to the one guy that goes, hey, I thought of a new sandwich. Here you go, buddy.
It's weird not being able to go inside most of the buildings because normally you can do that. But man, I don't know.
It was fun popping into a building and running into the one guy that was too lazy to go just outside town to catch a Spearow, so he would take one of yours for the one Farfetch'd in the game. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. There's that one lady outside who is like, man, I don't want to catch a Paldean whooper of my own. I'll give you this Johto whooper I have. I'm like, lady, this is incredibly rare here. If you walk right outside, you can catch 3 of your own, and you can recreate the chorus men from Rhythm Heaven with Whooper. It'll be fun.
Yes,
it'll be a real guest. You'll probably outperform Iono in for a whole week. But fine, I'll trade you one of the 3 I have for this, I guess.
That'd be amazing. Oh my god, the performing Paldean whoopers. Oh my god, get me in there. That'd be amazing. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm just mixed on these towns because they don't seem as thematically distinct as the ones before. The ones in Sword and Shield, I still remember. You got the sort of fairy village. You've got the majestic castle-like towns. You got this grungy Spikemuth. And I thought all those were really cool. But here, it's just they all kind of look similar, except sometimes there's some more desert and some more water. And I'm just for me, Pokemon always rides that line between realism and wackiness. But to me, that whimsicality is not really entirely there this time.
I'm an adult that lives in the real world and in the suburbs where things are pretty nondescript. Vin was here for a few weeks. He can tell you just how nondescript things are out here. Mm-hmm. So I would have understood, if this was a conscious choice to, just have towns. But when everyone is outside in the town, it just feels like everyone was out doing the treasure hunt.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't feel like Paldea was lived in at all, except for the gym leaders, ironically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, regarding some of the towns, I'm also a little bit mixed on it. There were a few that stood out a little bit more and had their own personalities. But yeah, thinking back on the Sword and Shield towns, it's definitely a lot more subdued in this game in comparison to something like, Hammerlock or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the open layout's nice, but it feels like this is the most I've noticed that there's a lot of NPCs you can't even talk to, even if it's just a little flavor text thing. They'll kind of react to you, but you don't get any dialogue. And I guess it's probably necessary because some of these towns are really huge compared to a few of the past ones we've seen. But yeah, it's just you go into Mesagosa and it's like, ooh, there's all these neat restaurants. And then there's just like a whole bunch of duplicates there for some reason. It just, I get it's, so you don't have to go on the other side of town for this, but it just felt like they could have at least switched up the menus a little bit for those or something.
I dove into each of those restaurants expecting something different, but so when they were clones, I'm just like, yo, this is kind of like padding.
An awful lot of Chinese restaurants in this town.
It just like clutters the map. I'm like staring at this thing, and it's like, yo, like half of these, or maybe even like 3/4 of these are dupes. And it's like,
Who wants some ice cream? But hey, that's enough negativity. One thing Game Freak always brings usually is the music. And I thought it was pretty good.
I thought it was really interesting how they implemented it. This time around, the battle music kind of takes around the surrounding area, so it's like adaptive. And I thought that was really interesting compared to like before. It's like very like, well, you play this song at this moment or whatever, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to submit at least one of those for future tune of the week.
They're chill, dude. There's still some of those overworld songs are really relaxing. But there's some not so relaxing stuff. Some of the boss songs are over the top. There's the NPC Penny. That boss song is practically like a rhythm game like song. It's from like Beatmania 2DX or something. And unfortunately, I also experienced the common Elite Four music glitch where like the first 5-ish seconds of the song just looped. But I thought that's the way it was supposed to be. So I thought it was the most anti-hype thing I had ever experienced.
Yeah, I had that same thing occur. Like, it sounds like they patched it out fairly quick, but I got there and I was like, oh wow, they're really doing something kind of weird here. And it's like, oh wait, no, this is that thing I've heard about. It's not supposed to do that. Yeah. And it really takes kind of the wind out of the sails because this is supposed to be the Elite Four. This is where all the hype comes together, and it just, I don't know, it just never really gets moving.
It does not, yeah. Did you encounter this glitch, Steve?
This is where I admit thanks to holiday bullshit, I dragged my ass through a lot of these scenarios. And by the time I made it to the Elite Four, they had this fixed. So, no, I got to enjoy the song as intended.
Nice. You got the hype where, like, I just heard, like,
Larry 2.0. Woo!
I don't even remember. Just like, what the hell is this, man?
That had to be irritating.
Yeah, I still have a stream VOD up if you were curious.
I was humming a lot of different tunes throughout the game. Like, you've got each of the 4 kind of cardinal directions of the map have a different sort of overworld theme. And that again links into the battles, which is really cool. Or sometimes it'll be slightly remixed in the towns. So you get a whole lot of stuff. And also, I've just was absolutely blown away by that banger of a final boss theme at the end of the whole final scenario. I have just got a heck of a lot out of that one, for sure.
Mm-hmm. That was a good one, yeah. Against the crazy, distorted visual shenanigans.
Although, I hate to say this, but I wasn't actually quite as hype about the gym leader theme this time around. I know, blasphemy, it's just that, I don't know, after all the giant stadium shenanigans and Sword and Shield, this felt like a very slight step back. It's not bad by any means, just didn't really hit me quite as hard.
I like the gym theme a lot, and, mostly because I feel like it's a natural evolution of what 5 tried to do, where it actually gets a bit more intense as it gets further along, as you beat more of the Pokemon along, until you hit that final one where it terastallizes and everyone starts cheering you on out of nowhere in some situations. And that is the more popular opinion, but I guess you'll be our Andre today with the unpopular opinion.
Whoa, Ampy is Andre? Whoa, I don't want to imagine that. That's just weird. I don't think we have the personalities to pull that off. Wait, what? But, I did think that final, the last Pokemon song on each gym leader fight, I thought that was a pretty catchy song. And like, I almost thought it was like a Sword and Shield B-side because like all of a sudden people are starting to chant and like cheer, and I'm like, they're just kind of chanting out of nowhere. It sounds good, I guess, but
I wouldn't put it past them to pipe in the chanting later, because I feel like the chanting tested real good, and on Twitter when Sword and Shield came out, I feel like we were all about the chanting then.
Oh yeah, it hyped us up, yeah, and for sure. And the gym leader song in general, it's like funky. I get it's fine to me. It's there.
That's it. I'm not PokéPaling with you people anymore.
But we got Pokemon to talk about. Which ones did you guys like? That's like the star of the show, the actual critters themselves.
Well, I had my time with Quaxley, but then I found out Fuecoco becomes the Dia de Muerto crocodile at the end, and I'm like, that's some buyer's remorse there, but like that was a good design.
It is cool. I really like all these starter evolutionary lines. I mean, obviously, I was super into Sprigaditos, and I was super, super surprised by that magician motif. And for a split second after it got the evolution, I was just like, huh. And I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Like a split second later. Not just because of Cat. But
I do need to ask you, were you upset by him standing up?
I was not upset because I expected it. But the whole internet was like, yo, keep Sprigadito on 4 legs. And I'm like, I'm not expecting this, man. And like, being part of furry life, I just don't really care either way. I really didn't.
We've all got to accept a little stand-in cat in our lives. That's just the way it works.
Yeah.
But I was really a fan of the starters. Like, it feels some generations stand out a little more than others, but I mean, even though I went Quaxley, I really do love the Sprigatito line as well, and I'm very happy with my extremely extra dancing bird. Yeah, Skeledirge was what Fuecoco becomes. Mm-hmm. It's great too. I can feel like it's another round of very solid designs all around.
Yeah, I think all 3 final evolutions are really, really neat, and that sort of unified theming, I thought that was like really, really cool. Regarding other Pokemon, I really liked Tatsugiri. They're like a sushi fish. They're sort of funky and cute and weird, but I like that one. They come in different like sort of forms too. Satotl super shocked me. They're a whale, like a sort of like land whale looking thing, and so I was super shocked. I thought that was really cute. And speaking of cute, Finizen, the dolphin, even though they're super basic, I thought that was a pretty striking design as well. And I think one of my favorite evolutions though was King Gambit. They took a previous evolutionary line, like this Bisharp Knight themed line, but now like King Gambit's like swole and thick, and I thought that was really neat.
Yeah, I saw that when Gita threw it out. I'm like, that looks familiar, and I'm like, and it was bugging me. I'm like,
it was bugging you
because it was very late at night, and I'm like, there's something about you. You evolved from somebody, and my Unova brain should have slapped that together, but I'm like, it was not working at 3 a.m. after.
I was in the same spot.
Shift.
I thought it looked familiar, but that was the first time I saw it during that fight, and I was like,
So we've seen a whole lot of grass cat things, but another huge hit that I ended up being a big fan of too was a Tinkaton. Like, I love my horrible trash gremlin woman who's going to smash everything to pieces. Type resistance be damned. So definitely a fun addition there. And I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, also I don't have it here, but Annihilate ended up being a really unexpected but very welcome addition there. It literally, became so angry it died, and its anger was still not sated. And now it's back with a vengeance, and it's really cool and another really fun surprise.
I was not expecting that at all. Yeah, so angry. Primate got too angry.
It's very relatable. Anyway, my takeaway, even though I had a lot of fun with those and others, there were 3 sets of puppy Pokemon. So, of course, I had to, adopt and raise and and hug them and kiss them and, take them for walks and all of that. And I even dug the unfortunately named Iron Tusk. I'm wandering around the desert, and there's this big ass Donphan looking thing. I thought it was an evolution. I can own this conversation. I'm texting in the middle of the night. Oh my god, Donphan evolves, and then but then I do the Titan, and then I fight. Then I find the one wandering around the desert. I'm running around with a real Donphan trying to get this thing trying to figure out. Oh man, how does this Donphan evolve? I gotta figure this out. And then I find this Iron Tusk in the desert, and I'm like, oh no, he's actually called Iron Tusk. It wasn't just a flashy name they gave the Titan like in a Zelda game or something. The name of this Pokemon is Iron Tusk.
Yeah, my god.
And I was so fucking mad about it that I sat down and like, we have to come up. I don't nickname a lot of Pokemon, but we have to come up with a real Pokemon name for you. And I came up with, and it took me all of a minute to come up with Gronphan. Okay, you are now Gronphan. And then you had to imagine my surprise after that when Iron Tusk / Gronphan had a very high Pokedex number. That wasn't right after Donphan's. Like, this is something else, because this goes back to the whole I managed not to spoil myself too much thing. Like, this is neat, which I guess carries us nicely to what Pokemon didn't we like?
My god. So like, to me, there's this whole thing that this game does where there's like these paradox Pokemon. So like, the big bad's plan is to bring like the past Pokemon in Scarlet to the present, or the future Pokemon in Violet to the present. And like, the Pokemon Violet endgame exclusives are just, to me, astronomically lame. Cause like, I was messaging Dre the whole time. I'm like, these are just Sonic badniks. Like, you're telling me like futuristic Pokemon are just gonna be like mechanical versions of like existing ones? And I'm like, the names are just so unbelievable. You're just gonna stick the word Iron before every single one. Like, seriously, Iron Tusk, like Iron Bundle, Iron Valiant. And I'm like, you've got to be fucking with me, right? It's just, come on, man. Like, you could have come up with like better names than these, right?
I remember seeing Iron Hands, and I'm like, that's one of the moves it has, right? Not the name of the Pokemon. Like, no. Nope.
I thought of a dumb joke. This is what happens when tech bros take over the future, because they have no artistic sensibilities and they can't name shit.
Very, very much the sign of the times right now.
I gotta say, we definitely locked out with our Jurassic Park friends and Area Zero and all that. Even the weird Jigglypuff one is like, okay, I get it. But the names, I hate the names so fucking much.
At least the Scarlet ones, they kind of tried. You get like Screamtail, right? And it's like, I'll take that over Iron X. But yeah, I mean, the naming in general is just very like ham-fisted. It's like, oh, these are different ones because they have wacky names. And I'm like,
I can't do a real or fake segment with these Pokemon. What the heck? Okay, our first Pokemon is called Steel Shocker. I'm like,
yeah, that's
Steve,
right, Shocker.
Steve, we're getting a new co-host.
We can't bamboozle Dre anymore with these stupid names, because anything can happen.
You know what this is reminding me of? What if, think back to the Ultra Beasts. What if they just called them by their little code names there? That's kind of what this feels like. Like, if we just had something called UbO2 Absorption or whatever. Like,
that's what happened this time. That's exactly what happened this time.
So mad if they left those as is. I would have been so upset. Oh my god. But aside from those, I actually like the Pokemon, but the names Pawmi, Pawmo, and Pawmote with a T, I just thought that the naming was kind of underwhelming. And really, even between like evolutionary stages, like all they really do is like stand up a bit more.
Yeah, like I love the cute little buddies, but it does, like, for a while I gotta look closer to say, okay, what's the difference between these two again? Like, they don't even change a whole lot in size, so it's a lot less obvious than some other evolutions.
I have to stare at it, yeah.
They're just a bunch of Pokemon Rory Calhouns. Okay, there's my Simpsons reference for the cartoon Twitter people. We can move on to a different Pokemon now.
Speaking of different Pokemon, Earthworm, like spelled like ORTH worm. Like I don't know. This looks like kind of almost like a reject fake mon or something like that, because they got really cartoony eyes and like their shape is super basic, and like I'm just like staring at it. I'm like, I guess, but I mean, I don't know. I think those are the notable ones that I didn't really care too much for. Do you guys have any others, or?
Well, it's not so much the design necessarily, but I'm just really sad that Spidops, which evolves from that tarantula you see in the first area, I just wish
Thank
it was.
you, I forgot it.
I just wish it was a little bit more interesting, because there's been some pretty darn fun early game bugs, like Orbeetle last time around. That was rad to just get right out the gate.
Yeah, that's cool.
The good news is we've got Low Kicks, who is absolutely rad, and another early game bug, but it just feels like this fella's a little bit underwhelming. We've had a lot of generations where even like these Route 1 critters can actually be competent and like interesting stuff going on Pokemon, and this felt like a slight miss. But if we're being honest, there wasn't that much else that felt like a really big miss. There were some lines I didn't really vibe with overall, but there's not that many I actively disliked. So that's kind of where I stand on that. I definitely agree, though, about Earthworm. That one caught me off guard, too.
Yeah, Earthworm. It sounds weird. I don't know.
Not much of a miss, but more of an observation when I'm trying to. I like cycling through Pokemon, even when I'm just running around. There's a lot of birds. There's a lot of fighting types running around Paldea. And when I'm trying to have a balanced team for whatever, that made it very tough to sift through things. The new Tauros is a fighting type. Quaquaval, he's a fighting bird. Flamigo, both. Iron Tusk, fighting Pokemon. Polmat's a fighting Pokemon.
Squawkabilly, all the bunch of them. The birds.
Squawkabilly was cool, but how many birds am I going to run? I'm not an aviary guy.
And don't forget Bombardier. Like there were a lot of single stage birds.
Yeah, that was cool too. Yeah, a lot of birds, which makes sense now that I'm saying out loud. The fighting types too, but I mean, all I need is my scarab bug to wipe them all out, I guess. I forgot the name already. I'll get it eventually. It's an anagram of scarab.
It's Rapska.
Rapska. Yeah. That took me a bit. That was a weird name, but I guess I liked it. Yeah, little dung beetle friend. That was interesting, I guess.
Also, I hate to bring this up now, but I think it's actually Great Tusk and not Iron Tusk.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I'm just saying that just so we don't get complaints in the reviews or anything.
Yeah, I was gonna let it slide, but yeah, Great Tusk and Scarlet, Iron Tusk and Violet.
Yeah, that's probably right. But you know what they say, all publicity is good publicity.
Look, if you're actually making that mistake, that just means the names suck. I mean, I'm sorry.
I think that just, kind of proves the naming could use some retooling, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, just they should not have been called that. If you're gonna if we can mix them up, it's like,
Speaking of retooling, how did we end up with our teams as we were wrapping things up in the campaigns?
Okay, so I always do the thing where I try to make a team only of the new Pokemon that are released. So I got my very fresh duck. Who became Quaquaval. I got my Palmet. I got Garganical, which is that giant salt golem thing.
I ran one of those too. Very cool.
Yeah, definitely another one of my fave new additions. I got Tinkaton, which I already talked about earlier. I got Scovillain, that spicy pepper. And another one of my faves is Espathra. It's this new kind of psychic emu with a really cool signature move called Lumina Crash.
Yeah.
That ended up being one of my favorite final additions that I got after taking my time leveling up this Warbly, because I thought, this looks like a cute little thing. And that's like, whoa, this thing's actually really cool.
Yeah.
But I had some issues with ground types, as you could probably tell from that. Like I probably could have put one of those very many birds on the team to help with that. But if I had Flamigo there, that would have meant like most of my team half my team would be fighting types.
Yo.
And then I had sort of a secondary team, like Flamigo in there, some others like Clodsire, another internet darling from what I've seen. Everyone loves that big silly goober.
Oh, yeah.
I mentioned low kicks, and Revivroom was another one. This giant sort of like motor engine thing.
Yeah, it's a car. You're playing Great Turismo Pokemon.
But yeah, that's pretty much how my teams shook out in the end. How about both of you?
So I was kind of rushing this game on stream, so I actually stuck with a lot of early Pokemon, and I ended up with Meowscarada, the evolution of Sprigatito, Good Kitty, Palmot, Oinkolongne, the pig. I actually didn't know necessarily if I was going to stick with this or not, but they were one of my few sources of ground type damage, so I kind of had to. I think their stats are ghetto, but anyway, Dashbun, the good well-baked puppy, Graphii, the graffiti monkey, and Baxcalibur, this funky looking ice dragon thing. And I had no fire type coverage for like a lot of the game. So that was kind of awkward. And much like Ampy, I was also trying to only use Pokemon that debuted in this game. At some point I did have a Spidops, but I was like not sure if it was gonna like pan out like attack wise, so I switched it out. But eventually, after I beat the game, I like switched in like other things that you mentioned, like the Revivroom.
I wouldn't call it a self-imposed challenge. I just more like, I've used these Pokemon already. Let's use new Pokemon. So a lot of the ones you use, but yeah, I used my Quick Wobble and a rotating selection of others. And I had a hard time settling, especially with all the fighting types I kept rolling into. Like, I'd catch something like, oh, this is cool, fighting type. This happened a lot. But so things like Darkspin and Bostif enjoyed a lot of time. I didn't get a Graveyard until later, fairly later in the game. But the Evolved form, which I'm so bad at memorizing these names at first, he's palling around with me in the post game. Those two dogs, they taught me how to breed the Pokemons in the picnics this time, and then that's how I have a different Mabostif than the one I started with, because this one that hatched knows play rough now. This is good.
Those dogs can play rough.
and if anyone else wants one that knows play rough without having to go through those hoops, hit me up. I'll trade you.
Oh, baby, egg moves via the breeding picnic.
That's a pic. Why don't we take our own picnic for a little bit? How's that sound?
That'd be great.
We'll be back.
Not a breeding one, just a regular picnic.
God, I hope so.
So wasn't that a nice picnic? We made some mostly intact sandwiches. We totally didn't spill jelly all over the table. Right? That was a thing that didn't happen?
Yeah, I think it was mostly kept pretty neat, I think. On the perfectly even ground that we set the table on.
Absolutely no bread slid off the table and made a giant mess. That absolutely didn't happen.
We would never set a table on a slope.
And then the two pieces of bread definitely, went on top of the other, right? We didn't accidentally put one to the side because we're not sure how depth perception works, right?
In the game, I totally accidentally dropped like the bread and it slid off though. I did that more than a few times. It would just plop. The bread would just have jank physics and fall off the sandwich. Oh my god. But we didn't. We would never do that. The game did. It happened in the game, but we would never do that.
Or something else the games have been doing for since the 7th round now. The regional forms. We've the Blankian form of a Pokemon we have already, so the poor artist doesn't have to make an actual new Pokemon. And Would you say these are as memorable as the one before? I mean, we got Wiglet. He's an albino penis that becomes 3 erect penises. I don't think anyone's forgetting that one.
Oh my god, Wiglet! I can't believe it! I can't believe it!
Wiglet has its own kind of fun thing. I kind of wish Wug Trio was a little bit more, though, than what it was. It just, I don't know. I expected it to have a little more trick up its sleeves. I mean, I guess we've already had Doug Trio get hair in past games, so, I mean, I don't think it's got any special tricks going on, but I guess it stands on its own.
It does stand on its own. On a sheer technicality, like, it's Tauros and Wooper that have, like, different forms in the traditional sense, but, like, in this game, they're just like, oh, instead of doing, like, just strictly just forms, we're gonna do new species. So it's like, so they did Toes Cool and Toes Cruel, and those two are cursed as fuck, man. So when I first saw them, they saw like I was like, this is a regional of like of Tentacruel, right? And Tentacool and Tentacruel, and I looked at it and I'm like, this is a different name. This is cursed as hell. So like to me, I probably won't forget that one. My God.
I saw him. I saw a Toad School walking around, and I'm like, is that a fucking tentacle? Is this one of those game-breaking glitches everyone keeps talking about? What the heck's going on? What's it doing over here? And I go in and I'm like, oh, it's Toad School. We're doing something else. Okay. And then I go, oh, it's grass and poise. Okay, we're doing a thing. It's living under a tree. It's a mushroom. Okay, I'm following you now, game.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I could not believe it when I saw it just take off on its goofy little noodle legs for the first time. I just thought it was an absolute laugh riot. But actually, I ended up really getting frustrated because I kept seeing it on the mini map and saying, "Where the hell is this?"
Yeah, me too.
It took me like half the game to actually find one eventually, but. So I didn't get to experience the fun.
Toad School will find you. When it wants to.
The thing takes off at like 20 miles per hour. It's scary.
Those dinky legs go fast, man.
Speaking of Tauros, the new Tauros is pretty neat, especially kind of how it's put into the game, because you will find lots of them on the plains and they will hunt you down relentlessly if you are not careful. Like, if they see you, they will charge you down. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It actually gets kind of difficult to deal with if you're not careful.
They're surprisingly quick.
Well, I had fun with them just because, they were fighting types and like, okay, Birdie, I need Tauros horns. Go get them. But although I didn't realize there were more than one kind of Tauros in this region, which I guess tracks because we're in Spain, but I didn't realize there was more than one variant until I was doing the post game, and the battle teacher had like the other two kinds. I'm like, oh, these are neat. Gotta find out how to get them.
It was a bit of an interesting one because there's the Paldean Tauros, but then there's like there's like a version exclusive Paldean Tauros, like Blaze and
I think the other one's water.
Yeah, it's water, but I forget what the like technical name for it is, but it is water.
I think Blaze and Aqua Breed, I think it was, maybe. But yeah, I wasn't really expecting those. So, like, I guess they're cool enough, though. I mean, like, maybe I won't be remembering all these different Paldean, like, Tauros. But I think, like, the design is cool. It's pretty neat. We have to ask the grand question, which is to say, this game is notorious for glitches. We can't avoid that part. So I want to ask if we experience any insane glitches, and man.
One thing I did luck out on is I didn't have a single crash my whole playthrough. And for what I understand, that was more the exception than the rule. Mm-hmm. One thing that did happen to me was I was trying to climb a mountain and then I just got stuck in some kind of infinite falling animation. Thankfully, the game's nice enough to just gently fade to black, reset your position. It's clear they were accounting for that.
Oh, so they don't play the Ed Sheeran song when you free fall for a few minutes.
Yeah, I should have tested that. It boots you after like 10 seconds. No, not enough time to. One thing I did notice, I don't think it was technically a glitch, but I know I'm not the only one that saw these little Pokeball markers in some of the different rooms in the academy. Like, it was in, I think, each of the main entrance areas. I think they were supposed to act as spawn locations or something, but they weren't removed. Except apparently it sounds like they were more recently. Did either of you remember that happening at all?
Not sure if I remember that too much, but I'm not
I
surprised.
didn't go to class. I didn't go to class right away like you. You know.
Yeah, what am I thinking? Only giant nerds will get this question.
I only did 1 or 2 classes before doing, the fucking Pokemon game around me, and then I would occasionally do more classes as the game went along.
God forbid you actually play the game. Yeah, I'm just kidding. No offense to Ampy. Oh my god.
Oh, no, we know.
Yeah.
This is where I have to admit that I managed to luck out with anything too outlandish either. I mean, I understand that most of these glitches were tied to the multiplayer mode where you tried to play with people, but I found it weird that, other than, yes, it doesn't perform great all the time, and there's only 2 trees over here, and we're calling it a forest, that, it wasn't doing anything that badly until the other week where I'm in a cave. I forget which one in particular, and it starts at an encounter with a Houndour, and this Houndour just decides to hang out in the bottom of a lake, like that's where he belongs. And I'm pretty sure I sent this picture on Twitter and Nordivin or whatever. I'm like, and that's like the craziest thing it did. Like, I guess that's where he lives now.
Yeah, little fire
Paldean
doggo
Houndour lives in the water.
Yeah, nothing like a fire Pokemon living in the water. Makes perfect sense, right? So, unlike you two, I had a fair number of glitches, and so when I was streaming this, 2 hours in, I had a Psyduck spawn randomly in the middle of school, and the same Psyduck was in my dorm room. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I kept clipping through Psyduck, and I have no clue how they spawned into my game. Why is Psyduck just here? I never figured that out. And then, like, 2 hours after...
that's why you didn't keep going to class. You did an art class, and you just had this Psyduck head staring at you the whole time with its vacant look, and like, oh my god, this is it. This is the real art class right here.
I tripped out so much.
I can't learn anymore. I have to go out and explore on this treasure.
It was all Psyduck's doing. It was sort of the Psyduck influenced my mind to go outside, basically. Yeah, that's more or less what happened. But 2 hours after that, my game white screened. Like, my character exited a shop into a white background, and so I kind of saw my character for a bit, but then shortly after that, everything became white forevermore. I was stuck. So I was like, do I save and quit because I'm scared about getting permanently screwed? And of course, for science, I did it anyway, save and quit. And then everything was normal when it came back, but I'm just like, yo, my screen is white, dude. This is like weird. And 20 hours in-ish, my game crashed when I was going to get some noodles because I was really looking forward to these Don noodles, which are like spicy noodles, right? And so I'm like, mad hype for these noodles, and then I crashed out of it, so like I got super like sad afterwards, and of course it went back in and it worked, but I was just like, yo, that's like crazy. Every so often I'll see like mini map symbols like rotate like on the actual game screen, so that's like super weird. I don't think I see it too often, but
Actually, I just want to point out, I actually did see that too. I lied earlier because I did see that with like when there was a Ghastly outbreak. Suddenly I've got Ghastly rotating around on there. So you're definitely not alone there.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, it's crazy. Of course, there's the commonplace camera clipping through the floor. I think that's kind of a ubiquitous thing. Not really a glitch per se. But speaking of not actual glitches, in the final area, I saw this Dunsparce against this wall, but the Dunsparce was like humping the wall over and over again, and I'm thinking to myself, what is this Dunsparce doing? And then eventually it just fell down off to his demise, and it was never heard from again.
This is where I need to talk about Dunsparce for a second, because I didn't bring it up earlier because I didn't have any real strong feelings about him one way or the other. I don't know why everyone was complaining about it. This is what you all wanted for 20 some odd years now. You wanted Dunsparce to evolve. What did you really expect for them to come up with? Yeah, sure. It might have been funny in Gen 8 to like make him a shield crest type situation, like to go along with Sir Fetched. but after he evolved. But I mean, what were you really expecting from Dunsparce other than more Dunsparce?
Yeah, more
And
segments. Yeah.
And Dunsparce delivers, so really.
Yeah, that's the perfect evolution for Dunsparce, which is more than I would have ever expected.
We keep complaining about, the technical whatever and the visuals, especially the visual sparseness, but would we still have preferred this over, the usual Pokemon experience? Personally, I'm inclined to say yes, because if we're going to charge us for $60 and a $30 DLC pass, which we know is coming, let's not pretend it's not. I gotta say, you can't go backwards unless you do it especially well. And we've already got some examples. We've got Let's Go piggybacking over the mobile game. And we've got the Sinnoh Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl remakes being really, really good at being Diamond and Pearl and not much else.
Mm-hmm.
And if we go especially traditional, do we really want to go back to Sun and Moon where it's more of a tour of the game than being able to explore things? Because that was the one thing I really hated about 7. Like, oh yeah, this is a fun island. Maybe we can explore this now that we're done with the challenge. No, we got to go to the next thing. Get on the boat. Maybe I can catch the next boat. No, boat now. We don't need that anymore.
I ultimately agree it was wise to go this direction. And so the promise of like open world, whether someone feels they delivered on it or not, is like really good marketing wise, right? And in general speaking, I think it's functional. I mean, it is really sort of frame-y, and there's technical shenanigans at the wazoo, but I'm always going to prefer that someone tries something new rather than like kind of sticking to the same formula, right? Especially since like everyone complains that the series just spams the same stuff.
And yeah, I'm definitely would rather they do something new like this than just keep it the same as it ever was. And they've tried to shake it up a little bit. Like back in Sun and Moon, there was the whole island challenge thing instead, where you're technically the league hasn't even been established, so you're the first champion. And then Sword and Shield has the DLC taken some different little story paths that end up being pretty interesting. But this, for the open world, just blows away all of the past mainline games. Just you've got so many options in how you can approach things. The Victory Road is going to be the familiar side of things, but regardless of how you feel about the Titans path or the Team Star stuff went, it was neat to try and do something a little bit different there and just shake things up from the norm. And I'm hoping they keep on finding new ways to do that.
And speaking of finding new ways to go forward, do you think this game gives us any idea of what to expect from future generations?
Oh, yeah. I know I'm probably very much reading way too much into this, but they killed the Pokemon professors. Like, in no uncertain terms. The ones that they show up in the marketing and, are supposed to be our mentors the whole time, they are literally dead in this game. And maybe, just maybe, the goal of this entry was to show us old farts that it is time that the old ways have served their purpose, but we can sort of move on without every little convention the entire time being kept. Even if I'm a little salty that my fishing rod is gone. I mean, I'm under the very strong impression that change is very much coming, because it's not just this. I'm sure we all saw the news that Ash won the Pokemon League, and now they're going to be done with Ash, the anime character too. So I think they got some different plans for this franchise, and it's going to be a bit of a rough ride to the other side. And I think might be a little bumpy, but we'll, think it'll be fun getting there.
It'll be fun for sure. And I think I'm really interested in seeing how they experiment with the formula. It's really hard to speculate as to what they're going to do, but heck, this game gives you a legendary off the get-go, and this terastallization mechanic basically lets you empower any Pokemon that you have in a freeform way, right? So I mean, like, maybe they'll go more off the rails. They'll find some mechanic that, like, maybe you can like type change even like in other ways too, or something like that. I mean, it's kind of hard to like speculate, but like, this really does change things up in relatively small but meaningful ways, I think. But as for what it'll do for like even like DLC or something, man, it's hard to predict.
My thoughts are that we've seen both with Arceus and now especially this, they're really going in on the open world stuff. And I feel like they've got everything in place to improve on that going forward. If they could just make sure things are a little bit more optimized, then I can see that easily replacing any of the old styles or ways of going through the world. It's just a matter of, yeah, it's hard to say what directions they'll go, but it looks like they've definitely got a trend they're going to be continuing with until maybe they zag on us again. Who's to say?
Yeah. Will there be an engine change?
We'll see.
I think that's the best answer.
Which is a good way to sort of get to asking, we have mostly positive impressions of this game, so why should, even though we just spoiled the game for you, if you're on the fence at home, why should you, even if you've played all the games before, unless you're Vin and you skipped a bunch before getting here, you fake Poke fan, you.
Really, ultimately, it's going to deliver that same stylized Japanese RPG experience that nobody else can quite deliver on. And then folks can claim they're going to play Temtem, but like if you actually play Temtem, you're probably not going to get really the same sort of like panache or like stylized role playing. The design process is underappreciated, I think, because they probably go through like a whole bunch of like dozens upon dozens of designs that we don't even see before they release stuff. So I think like that will always hold true for this series, just the visual design, right? I think that's like the most striking thing that like anybody can appreciate.
I mean, I'm just going to be a jerk here and say it's mostly because this is where the community is. Well, I mean, what else are you people going to do? Go play Nexamon? The Nexamon 2-pack for 2 for 40? I mean, this is where we all are. I mean, I lauded Arceus for putting an emphasis on filling out the Pokedex. And really, if you're good at video games, you can just kind of do that here too, if you don't mind the weird spikes and drops in difficulty. And, again, we're all here playing Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. We are not playing Nexamon, and we are pretty sure the franchise that people care about is inching its way to where it ought to be, or, at least to something else, something different-ish, but something we all like all the same. So you might as well join us on the bandwagon where, we all actually are, because no one is going to give you a hand job for playing Metabots. I promise.
Feels like every once in a while you hear tales of the legendary Pokemon killer game that's out there, and it's going to be the thing that, does it all better and does it. It's just really, there's been so many similar games that have challenged that throne, and none of them have really supplanted it because it's not really something to supplant. If you're playing a Pokemon game, you're here for a particular kind of experience. And you always get people talking about, they should make one that's more for adult players. They should make an edgier game. And honestly, at a certain point, you're not really making Pokemon anymore. If you want games with that kind of darker storyline, there's ones out there that exist. And you got to accept maybe you're not going to get something like that with the same little critters you've got here, but I really don't think you're going to get any kind of experience like this by trying to change around Pokemon too much. You're here for a reason, and you're probably going to get the most out of this if you want Pokemon. There's other games out there that exist. Pokemon doesn't really need to change in that way necessarily. It's going to change in the ways that it has been, and yeah, it's already been said, it's going where it needs to go right now. We'll see where that goes.
You know what, Steven, I would say regarding the other games, like, if you want darker, edgier Pokemon, just play a Mega 10 game.
Exactly, yeah.
If you're looking for more mature storylines, they got them tucked away in these games. You gotta, explore the worlds and find them. And I find that charming in its own way for things like the Old Chateau or, other storylines tucked away in these games. And, maybe that's part of your problem. Try a little bit, people at home. These games don't play themselves, except for Pokemon Let's Go. Who said that? What do you say, guys? Do we start heading off on our own treasure hunts?
Yes! A treasure hunt, 3 PokéPals, 3 paths, 3 picnics.
3 starters.
as well as our socials will be in the Fine Time Podcast description, so you can find us over there. And it's been fun. It's been a good treasure hunt.
Yes, you'll find me and even Kevin and Andre, if you really want to talk to them. They won't know too much about Pokemon Go, though, using at Fine Time Podcast on Twitter and, those other social thingamajigs too, whichever ones exist in a few weeks. We'll see you out on the old trail there. Have a good night, kids.
We hope you all find your treasure.
Bye-bye.